That's a multitude of slippers that
I had to go to the back of the cupboard to dish some of these out on Wednesday night. I've been to the spa and got me slippers from there. To get me winter boots out because I'd run out of things to throw. And I'm currently barefoot with current slippers still here.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Oh dear. Okay, here we go, everyone. It's the semi-final. We have Annie, we have Brogan, we have Deborah and Mani all set for Japan Week. We've been talking all the way from the start how exceptionally talented everyone is, haven't we?
Yes.
Yes, you couldn't argue with the fact that, you know, going from week one, we've seen some really good sewers, and, you know, the decision to send people home, I appreciate is difficult every week, but, you know, those are the rules.
And so far this season, I say nothing too majorly slipper thrown. I think we've only had a couple of episodes over the last 9 weeks of like two incidents because we felt the judging was quite consistent.
The judging has been consistent, but also fair. You know, we've had our favourites, and some of those have gone home. But in the grand scheme of things, they've had a bad week, or they chose a bad fabric, or, you know, something didn't go right for them.
The pattern challenge, Japan Week. Perhaps not a surprise that we got a kimono-inspired dress for the first round. I think with this one, because it was slightly different, because it was pattern crafted by Esme and her friend, wasn't it?
Oh, was it? I wasn't quite sure. I'm sure they only mentioned that once.
Yeah. Maybe.
So we had Annie, Brogan, Deborah, Mani. I've got them in alphabetical order this time, as there's only 4.
Very uncontroversial.
Let's go through them. Annie and her brownie kind of beige one with the contrast collar.
Was she also the one that did the two-tone lining as well?
Yeah.
Hers was impeccable. I have to say, it was like, there's a reason she was top for that. It was impeccably done. I personally would have reversed the colors on the outside with the darker.
No, I think it really worked, and
it was fabulous. I'm just saying for me.
And I think also what you have to bear in mind is that they were supposed to cut the lining and the outer the same size because there was no step on the lining. So if you go and look at a jacket that you own, you'll notice that the outside fabric goes down and then it comes up on the inside about that much, and then the lining is attached. So it kind of curls under. Whereas this, the lining and the outside had to meet. So the fact that Annie had cut her lining in half or whatever to create the two-tone, she had to leave seam allowances for that. She had to make sure that when she'd sewn the lining bit together, that it still was the right size to then match what she was putting on the outside. That wasn't something they had to do. And she did that without prompting. And, you know, it just made it even more phenomenal.
Well, it's
that extra step.
Yeah, and her construction was just stunning. You know, like all of them had issues with some sort of issue with the lining, as well as figuring out the belting and everything else. The construction was incredible. It was beautifully done.
Brogan into her one, it's like blue with then the plain collar.
I liked her fabric choices. I really did like the contrast with hers as well.
Although you got to remember, she wasn't going to do a contrast, was she? It was
she just ran out of
necessity that she realised she didn't have enough fabric to do both the inside and outside.
Yeah.
So I think that helped her in the end. But she had a lining issue. She also
did a hole in it.
Yeah, she hadn't actually hand stitched it shut.
Well, she sewed it all the way shut. She hadn't left a gap to turn it out.
And she had to unpick it.
And to be fair, I think many people have made that mistake when it comes to bagging. You're so busy, unless you put your pins in or your clips to say stop.
Oh, yeah, that's what you do, don't you?
I was going to say, I don't think I've had that issue, but that's because I do double pins on either side to know when to stop. But there's a difference between you and me in pinning, Stuart. I think everybody and you in pinning. But,
Deborah, now Deborah's an interesting one to talk about this round. Why do you think in her decision process of not having a contrast down the front there, and the same with the lining? What do you think the process was going on?
I think she made it harder for herself because I think by having a contrast, it was then easier to see where you were sewing. And I think that was what caused her problems, because everything was the same when she was sewing that sleeve, and she ended up with it all bunched up. I think it's because all the fabric looked the same color. I think, you know, it wasn't just a design thing to say, oh, you should have a contrast lining. It's there to help you in the construction of that. And unfortunately, you know, that then caused an issue, and it also caused my heart to go up into my throat.
Very much so. I think maybe, I wonder if she thought it would be easier, it would hide the mistakes.
I think that's what she thought. Yeah.
So she thought the opposite, when really, like, you don't know until you do these things. You don't know unless you know. So
no, true. I like the bamboo print though.
Yeah, it was lovely.
It was really very nice. It was very Deborah as well, I feel.
Yeah. And then Manyi with her that sort of what color was it? Sort of a reddishy color, wasn't it?
One,
yeah.
Again, hers was lovely as well. I liked hers.
Yeah, hers. I mean, Annie was phenomenal, but Manyi as well. She did exceptionally well.
That little floral ditzy print looked beautiful, didn't it?
Yeah.
And I mean, I must admit though, I wasn't impressed with the fabric. Now that's not the sewer's fault, but you know, they said at the start, oh, we've put some Japanese fabrics and that in there for you, and I just thought they were a bit too boring.
They were a bit bland in color.
Yeah, and I know it's not like Chinese fabrics where you have that chinoiserie, you know, that kind of really bright and bold fabric, but I also felt that it was very understated and very muted. I didn't feel they could show their personality through, because that's the only way you can do that, is your fabric choice. And you know, I'm not saying that Brogan should have done a nice pink one, and you know, or anything like that, but you didn't feel that those colors, I mean, other than Deborah's, who I actually thought that print was very Deborah, but the others I didn't feel it expressed. You couldn't be individual in there, because of what you'd been provided with. They made good choices from what they had, and I'm not criticizing the sewers. I'm criticizing, you know, the bigger picture.
You
but
could
those
argue
fabrics they brought in were just not very interesting.
Because why would you put in the haberdashery then, like for Paul Brogan? Why would you put in a bolt that doesn't have enough fabric?
Well, I mean, technically they weren't supposed to, were they? I suppose, you know, with the pattern, they probably said, oh, as long as there's 4 meters on there, or however much, that's fine. And Deborah probably lucked out in that they bought, you know, a bolt that maybe had 10 meters on, or whatever.
Okay.
But I thought it was, I agree, because I like you said, the fabric was nice fabric, but maybe not as Japanese inspired, because even the dragonfly, I have a dress made out of that dragonfly material.
And it was the same fabric that Manyi had for round 3, the mating measure. I had some of that fabric in the shop in the past as well. It's very readily available, and it comes under that Japan title a lot in fabric shops.
I just thought it was very boring, and the colours were boring. You know, when you were talking about a pop of colour, I mean, yes, the red against the beige popped out, and the beige against the blue, it did, you know, because there are definitely a contrast in tone and colour, but I just felt that could have been a bit more fun.
I think, as I said, if I was going onto my fabric wholesalers, some of them have them in those stereotypical genres, and when you go to Japanese, it is that color, or it's the Shashiko very linear pattern on it, the blue and white lines.
I think I would have rebelled, because they said, oh, we've put some Japanese fabrics in there. But you know what? I think I'd have gone and chosen something completely different, just so it looked a bit more interesting.
Like lime green or something.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I know it's Japanese week, and I know they are the sorts of, but I just felt the fabric was a bit boring. You know, they didn't get a lot of choice, really.
Well, in that round then, Annie came first, Manyi second, Brogan third, and Deborah fourth. And I know I was, you know, willing Deborah on. She was the one that I was, you know, wanting. So I'm already now going, oh no, the pressure is on.
Well, we had done our 11 minutes past 9 prediction, hadn't we? And I think by that time we'd had a little bit. I mean, we didn't have a full-on history bit this time, did we? But we were trying to read between the lines, and at that point, I think I said Manyi, didn't I? Because she'd struggled. She was struggling with something, and I was just like, oh, do you know what? I've just got a feeling in my water that it's Man Yi, because there wasn't enough to pin it on anyone at that point.
No.
But then obviously by the end of that challenge, it was like, well, Deborah obviously had come last, but that was only one thing catching that. Everything else was kind of okay.
But when you look at Annie first and then Brogan third and fourth, there was a big difference, wasn't there, with Annie's finish?
Totally.
Yeah.
You couldn't argue that Deborah or Brogan should have been second or first. And equally, you couldn't have argued that Man Yi or Annie should have been anything but first or second.
Mm-hmm.
Transformation round then. They had to have interesting round, worn denim into Shashiko, or Shashiko is probably the proper way of putting the emphasis on, but I've always called it Shashiko. 90 minutes? You'll be lucky to do like 4 bits of running stitch in 90 minutes, let alone where they then said, the judges said, oh, and you could do other embroidery embellishment techniques.
I think what? We then had this, let's take this really beautiful skill, but actually all we're doing is putting a few patches on, and we're going to accept patches put on by the sewing machine, and we're going to accept all the embellishments, putting ruffles and pearls and other things on. And actually, yes, like that's not, you had the chance to actually do something that we could do at home. If you don't have a sewing machine, you could go and get your old jeans and you could have a go at this. You don't need to invest £300-400 in a sewing machine. Mm-hmm. And they kind of ruined it. It was like the one thing that could have appealed to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And they shafted them by what they then asked them to do, which didn't really fit, and only gave them 90 minutes.
Yeah, because part of the whole Shashiko, the whole vibe of that mending, it's the slow living, it's the going slowly, it's taking time and actually enjoying the process and creating something fabulous. And I've kind of went, we'll just do that really fast. And I like that they're introducing and they're showing the concept and they're letting people become more aware of it. But I think Banana says it all with her bum in the air, really.
I just felt this was one of the few things, we sat here before and said we were sick and tired of turning a sleeping bag into a dress to go out in. Everything's always been a dress to go out in. And it was just the opportunity to not use a sewing machine and create something beautiful. Yeah. But the time pressure but that's by allowing them to do those extra bits and pieces.
That's it. And it was only Man Yi who decided, right, I am going to use the hour and a half just hand sewing and not panic that it's not going to look enough, and therefore feel you have to then do a few embroidery stitches, because that's where I think the other three felt they had to, didn't they?
Yeah. But I think so just to flip it the other way. So for people who do have sewing machines and are rubbish at hand sewing and may not have those skills yet or are a bit nervous, it's a way of introducing it as well. So people can patch and then go, I'm going to make it pretty with some hand stitching around it, and I'm not, going to overthink it, because sometimes you look at these beautiful repair jobs that's done in the more traditional way and you think, oh my God, not a mission. Like I'm currently learning how to patch things and learning how to sew that so it is nice, and rather than because hand sewing can be
it's
ugly.
It can be, but then equally, the whole skill of this. I mean, I don't want to oversimplify it, but it is essentially a running stitch.
It is. It's all lines.
It's not complicated embroidery where you're trying to recreate leaves and flowers. They're supposed to be lines, linear, angular, running stitch, or maybe goes up and over.
I agree. But if you're adding patches, some people might get overwhelmed by it. So I'm just saying this might be a way to introduce it to people that might be overwhelmed and can do a simple stitch on your machine, tidy up your edges, put a patch in. Then you just have to do a running stitch rather than trying to melt it all together in a pretty fancy way.
Let's go through them then. Same thing alphabetically. Annie. So Annie with her fabric, she chose lots of fabric and had and then put them onto the collars, didn't she? And that then you saw it similar through into the stars, didn't you?
Which was fine, but again, that's not really what it was.
Yeah, she embellished. It was more embellishment than she did mend.
Yes.
She did more embellishing than mending, I think.
Beautifying it in a embellishment way. Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Brogan with her holes, she matched her holes with the patches, the star. I think the star patch, didn't she? 2 stars.
Yes.
Yeah. She put one on the front and one underneath, and I thought that Shashiko was supposed to be from underneath. You know, the patch is supposed to be underneath, and then the stitching's on the top.
But was there a second hole or not?
No, she did one of each. She did one where she put the patch on the top, and then the lower one she did the patch underneath.
Yeah, but I think the embellishments was too much. I think she just panicked and added even more. But she did do that hand stitching. I think she should have done more of that and less of the throw things at the skirt and see what happens kind of stuff.
Deborah with her pinafore dress, as you rightly said, she went, "Oh, this is not my thing," didn't she?
Yeah.
Oh, and of course I'm itching for Deborah, like, "Oh, come on, you've got to do well this round." And when she said that, I'm like, "No."
Yeah, I think she made the same mistake as Annie in that she mended a bit and then just threw a lot of fabric at it.
Yeah, put some patches on and put on the pocket, I think, wasn't it? And I suppose you try and. I suppose it's that idea you are mending, so therefore you'll try and put as many different techniques on as possible.
But she wasn't really. She was just literally sewing them on and then doing a running stitch around stuff. So, yeah.
And then we see Man Yi, and when I see Man Yi starting to do that rainbow, I'm like, yes, this is what I think as Shashiko.
And the whole theme, she used like a weather theme, didn't she, with the sun and everything.
And hers was fabulously done, I thought, personally.
It was a lot of hand stitching for 90 minutes. The rainbow would have probably taken me 90 minutes, let alone then the lightning bolt and then the sun. But it.
Well, I mean, I don't want to diminish what she done, but it was only a running stitch over. And that's, you know, given the 90 minutes, you know, she only did change the colour 7 times. Yeah, I'm not, because she did exactly the right thing. But
she did also stitch around the other patches as well.
It's true. It's true.
And if you were doing it at home for real, you would have done 2 or 3 lines of red and 2 or 3 lines of yellow, and you'd have filled it out. But you got the general idea with what she was doing, and the others could have done something like that, you know.
And actually, if you're really good at Shashiko, you actually try to, with the long needle, you try to go through 4 or 5, 6 times. And
I think it's what she was doing.
I was going to say, I think that's what she was doing, because at the end you could see it was slightly puckered.
That's why that's why she was able to do so much, because she knew the technique.
But you can forgive the puckering in a 90-minute challenge, I think.
Yeah. Okay, so the round there finished Man Yi first and Annie second, Brogan third, Deborah fourth. So we're in the same positions again, other than a switch at the top end. We've got the same at the other end.
Oh, I thought Brogan came bottom in one.
No.
Okay.
No. Now to the end of the first 2 rounds. And if we're going by what we've seen before,
I was texting the boys going, "Oh my God,
Deborah!" We kind of felt that Deborah had to make an exceptional made to measure to survive.
And part of me was like, "Do you know what, Deborah, you've got this."
Yes.
Before I even saw what she was going to do, I was like, if anyone can pull it out, Deborah can.
Deborah can some immaculate sewing. She is incredible when when she gets to it.
And she's been very good on the made to measure, and she's won garment of the week on the made to measure.
And I think she should have won this week. That's a different story.
Yeah. As I was looking at my notes, she's won garment of the week 3 times. So
she's won garment of the 3 week times. No.
So we kind of, if you were a betting person, you would probably place a bet there and then, thinking that Deborah is going to survive and Brogan's going to go home.
Don't get me wrong. I was literally on the edge of my seat, because, you know, like we said with Marnie, bad week, she went home, and it was kind of like, if anyone can pull it out of the bag, Deborah can. But is that enough?
Yeah. All she had to do was decide to change her pattern at the last minute, and we'd be like, no.
As far as we were concerned, Man Yi and Annie are absolutely safe. For the next half an hour, we're on the edge of our seats as Deborah fans. If you were Brogan fans, you're probably still. I think. Let's go into it then. Let's go into the made to measure.
Yes.
And they had to make an origami fold, and where they had to fold and manipulate the fabric, or to sculpt it into an outfit, not a going
Well,
out outfit.
I was going to say, can we highlight the fold and sculpt and create this thing? Folding.
Let's just make sure we know what the challenge actually was.
Yes. Does
So it can
everybody
be judged
understand origami,
appropriately.
right?
I will say it nice and clearly. It was to make an origami where they have to fold and manipulate and sculpt the fabric into an outfit. And then
those examples were clearly folded garments.
And we even then have a little bit later on with Patrick saying that they need to create an appearance of, I've even written it down, create an appearance of folded paper around the body. That's what he said. And then I think Esme went, oh yes, 3D.
I think we had some good criteria there, which, you know, we've criticised in the past for not having criteria to judge against.
Very explicit.
So we've got sculpting fabric around the body, like an appearance of folded paper. So that's what we as an audience are looking for as we watch.
Well, I love Deborah's. I seen Deborah's and went, oh yes, please. I also quite like Mani's, but I thought it was because it was beautifully simple. A lot of Japanese styles are beautifully simple with those lovely details and things. And I thought, well, she's done it that way. That's how it's, you know. Deborah's, I was in two minds about Deborah's because it kind of reminded me of the jacket that she created. It was very in that style.
Deborah had, I don't know, she kind of adapted a pattern because she certainly had a pattern for the overall. I don't know if she adapted the flowers at the bottom, but you know, that kind of folded sleeve and everything. She seemed to have a pattern for that. And Mani was kind of working a bit more freehand. As time went on, I liked that less, and part of me was thinking, "Oh, is that going to send her home?" But what, again, with Annie, just what knocked me out is that she designed it. She designed it, and it had boning and it had everything interface, you know, and to make it stand up. But she designed it. It wasn't a pattern.
Can I ask? Did anybody else see the pattern on her table that had McCall's or something on it?
I don't know. We'll have to watch.
Because if you go back and look at the footage, there is a pattern, like a branded pattern on the table. So whether she has taken a pattern and manipulated, you know, adjusted it. That's why I was like,
I would have thought that would have been difficult if you're talking about the folds and everything.
Well, that's what I thought. But then I see, whenever they were talking about it, you seen her talking, and on the table there is a pattern.
You have to watch the fold line, and they normally search all the patterns on YouTube, and they'll see if it was the basis of a pattern.
Yeah. But I'm not taking away from it. It was fabulously done. But I was like,
5 minutes in, then when we saw all those drawings, did you have one that you thought, oh yes, I love that? Because when I saw Deborah's, the idea of Mount Fuji and the blossom,
oh, it was fabulous. I love Deborah's.
It was that case
not because I like her. It's just because I thought
it was a case of if she can pull this off.
Yeah, she has it. Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I thought. She's going to do this, and she's safe. That's fine.
But they all have their own inspirations. We had Annie with the bunny. We had Mani with that lovely idea of the cranes and the legend about the wishes. Brogan about the lotus flower. So we're all thinking, right, come on, and we're all getting excited to see what techniques they use. And it was interesting to watch as that 30 minutes went on.
Well, you say it was interesting to watch. Part of me was. So I've skirted the issue, but we saw Deborah, we saw Mani, we saw Annie. As soon as Brogan described what she was going to do and the fabric that she was going to have, to me, before we even saw how it was going to end up, or before we watched her sew anything, I was like, she's done a Christian. She's not
I thought that's it. But it reminded me, sorry, but like Christian at least went with the brief in the style of the dress and what he was making. Brogan ignored the folding, wasn't an origami outfit, in my opinion, at all, or Esme's. She didn't use material that would fold or would give a crisp fit. It didn't even need hemming.
Well, let's try and break that down. What do you think maybe that she was thinking of the neoprene? If they told her it's about sculpting and folding, what do you think maybe she was thinking then in choosing it?
I don't know because
easy simplicity. Would it fold easy because of the?
No, it was never going to fold. But whether she went down the route of it being a modern fabric, you know, and Japan is, you know, very cutting edge in that respect with some of its designs. Whether she went down the route of it could be sculpted, because, you know, it has a weight to it. You know, you can sculpt it and you can cut it into those regular shapes because you don't need to hem it.
Yes. My only thinking is she added so many, so like the circles, for example, at the bottom, the only reason they stood like that was because there were so many of them. If there hadn't been loads of them squished in together,
they had to be sewn. She folded it, but then had to sew down to keep the fold in the flower.
When you look at the techniques of the others, okay, we look at Magny's, which was, okay, a simpler dress, maybe slightly less fitted. I think Brogan's, it wasn't as fitted as they think it was.
Hers wasn't fitted either. That was a sack.
But Magny's, the folding that went on with that trim and the bottom of the dress, the amount of work that went into that was incredible.
And
what on Brogan's could compare to that? Like the dress, what part of that could even compare to the edge?
That's what I'm trying to sort of try and debate. So maybe the idea of the others using cotton drill to get those creases, maybe Brogan was thinking, well, if I can't get the creases, well, the neoprene, if I fold it like that, it's not going to flop, it's going to stay up like that. So maybe that's what
she didn't do that with it.
I know
with it.
But you're supposed to use the folding to sculpt the thing. It's not just like, let me just stick some things on and let them stick out because they're 3D, because Fuba sticks out.
And also, it was an origami dress.
Yes.
Something had to be folded and, you know, it had to be holding itself. You know, we had that collar created by Magny on a very, what I would say, very simple slip dress, but that was a folded collar that went into there.
Disappearing collar.
The flowers that Deborah made were folded and put together. Yes, she put a stitch in them, but they were folding and the material was folded with it. You know,
and even her big sleeve, there was a special, you know, the sleeves on Deborah's as well had that folded.
So
there was nothing folded on Brogan's.
Maybe a bit different then, because neoprene can hold its shape. Maybe if she'd used the neoprene like Annie, you know that bit here, Annie's, the bunny ears, maybe then and cut the neoprene. Maybe
she could have attempted to fold it and reinforce it with boning if that's what she really wanted to use.
But that still wouldn't have worked, because there was still, you couldn't have folded that because the scuba's so thick. If she had folded that in the same way that Annie did, it would have looked, it should have looked like the Michelin Man.
Yeah.
Yes. So well, maybe then she didn't need to fold it. Maybe
went home last week because bad material choice, didn't quite finish. He did make mistakes, but her dress, wrong material, didn't fit the brief at all. Like not even in the same ballpark or city or anywhere.
Not even in Japan.
No, there was like it's a lovely dress. It's not an origami dress.
It is hard to see from that point of view.
And she came second to last in the two previous. So I thought at this point, okay, she has to go, because based on historically what they've been judging, she should be gone. End of story.
Okay,
but also,
I've seen you like this before, Anya.
Halfway through,
so annoyed.
we actually have the judges going, oh, it's scuba. Oh, it's not really folded. Oh, I'm not sure if it's the brief. So it's kind of like, I was then sat back going, well, Deborah, you're all right, love.
Oh, we were.
Let's just tune into next week.
Yeah.
Because she was second to last in the other two. The judges have practically stood there and said, this is not what everyone else is doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Esme came flat out and said, it's not origami enough. But I've actually lost a bit of respect for the judges this week. I was just like, just no.
Well, let's get to the point then. So we've then seen that round develop. We then see, as you rightly said, Magny making all those folded bits there, this wonderful folded crane on the front. We can see where they've used the techniques. Let's look at the individual ones now as they come down the catwalk. What about Annie's coming down the catwalk?
It was fab. It did have a bit of a wow factor. You go, oh my God, that's fab.
It was great. Move on.
Yeah.
Brogan walking down with the ruffles and the swing of it. What do we think?
If you ignore the brief entirely, it's a nice dress.
Yeah, so let's forget completely. Let's forget about the brief here. What about it as a garment?
I thought it was a lovely dress, not as fitted as it could have been, but we've had that in the past.
I feel, and again, this might be the fabric choice as well, but she almost went like kind of, because it is Japan, isn't it? That is got Hello Kitty.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of child's toy sort of look.
Yeah.
And that's what it's an oversized dress.
There's a word for that, Stan. I can't remember what it is.
Sarah joked with it and said it about a Teletubby, didn't she? So.
But it was that kind of thing, as it was. You see that with some of the Japanese teenagers, don't you? Where they're very slight and they've got this oversized kind of neoprene scuba type stuff on that kind of moves with them, and it kind of reminded me more of that, which of course then wasn't what was supposed to be produced.
And then Deborah's walking down the catwalk, seeing the bottom.
Hers was incredible. Hers was the most Japanese, in my opinion, because it was so clean, so very crisp, and just beautifully finished.
And you know what we got? We got a low cut neck.
I know, I was like, oh, tingle me,
It went all the way down.
It was a lovely top.
Walking down the Riviera with my Japanese dress on, with my neck out.
We'll all have some Prosecco to celebrate, shall we?
You'll need to cool down if Mount Fiji is blowing as well. It'll be hot.
Oh, excuse me.
But those angular arms.
Oh, they were fabulous.
And this is a bit geeky now. You know, when you do folding origami, you have your valley folds, don't you? Where it gets a bit confusing to fold it in. And those arms have those valley folds where it was 3D, where you could put your hand in between the folds. So to me, that was origami exquisite.
Do you know all that I can think of, though, is it would be like if I was putting it on, as the sleeves went on, they'd all get caught. You'd be like kind of stuck because there was so much fabric in that sleeve that had been folded up and down and in. I was just like, if I was trying to put that on, suddenly my arms would be stuck and I'd be like kind of stuck in there.
I'd be getting weird phone calls from Ting, I'm stuck.
You got Mani's coming down the catwalk.
Well, so I know, you know, in terms of all the folding, it was there, but I kind of did agree with the judges because to me, it was just a very simple slip dress that wasn't made to measure. It didn't fit the model. It didn't come in or anything like that. It was very much a square or rectangular dress. It had the wonderful, you know, edging, but I also did just think, well, all you've done is made an origami crane and stuck it on the front. To me, that, I mean, I know she did the lovely collar, but I felt the folding should have been more integral to the garment rather than just a big old crane stuck on the front, which then came out over the side, and it was just like, well, it's not actually that practical, and you wouldn't look very good out.
But that's the sculptural side.
Indeed.
So whether she decided to go sculptural,
but she didn't sculpt. She didn't sculpt the main dress. It was very boxy, and it just hung there.
But it does look like a lot of the dresses. So it's what are they called? I've just had to look it up because it's driving me nuts. Harajuku girls, where they have that sort of very ditzy kind of girly style. But I think with Mani's, I think the biggest thing that let her down was her fabric choice. I think if she'd gone with different, cleaner looking fabric, whether it was just a straight color, and then had that impact of Korean and had the impact around her sleeves, I think it would have been marked a lot better. I think the pattern, like the material, let her down completely.
Yeah, the crane lost its impact, really.
Yes, because that was definitely very sculptural, and there was so much origami in that, and in the trim and the details. I understand it's this great dress.
The issue, though, is it was just sewn on the front. It wasn't integral to the garment. You could have made any bit of origami you wanted. You want an origami frog, and just put that on the front instead.
But to highlight, she still did a lot more origami than.
Oh, don't get me wrong.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong.
This is where we then get to obviously the end. So the judges are obviously now having to go away and look at these made to measures.
So we just check the ranking again at this point. Mani came second and then first.
Yeah, so she's in the top end. Annie
was in the first one or two.
First, yes.
Deborah was like bottom.
Yes, you've got Mani and Annie, these two on the 1 and 2, and then you've got Brogan and Deborah 3 and 4.
Yeah.
And you know, based on that last round, Mani did take a bit of a dropping over the fact that it wasn't made to measure. So you did kind of think, oh, actually, is that going to go against her? You felt that Deborah had climbed way back up to the top, and Annie, you couldn't fault anyway. But then you were looking at Brogan, who had not met the brief and used an absolutely ridiculous fabric So to me, it was like, well, hang on, she did third, and didn't meet.
Well, that's what we were chatting, weren't we?
Yeah.
We were just going.
If you compare it to any other week, she would have been gone.
So we're all saying Brogan's going. We then have to chat with Patrick again, who then says Deborah is up for Garment of the Week. So we're thinking, oh, Deborah's safe, aren't we? And then Patrick talks about Man Yi again, maybe. So it's like, oh my God. And we've always said that the made to measure weighting, we don't know it, but it does seem a lot stronger. So yes, it would make sense if Man Yi was to go. So
it wouldn't have made sense if she had actually gone. I kind of think we got there thinking she had a fall from grace, and Deborah quite rightly had overtaken her. But I don't think at that point that she should have gone home.
Yeah. No, I don't think she should. I think, okay, she definitely didn't do as well as she could have, or, but I thought, well, one person in the group missed everything based even on last week, like we said, Christian.
Well, and that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, I know Christian had to go last week because of the final garment, but she was bottom last week on the other challenges as well. So you think she's had 2 weeks, which is more than a lot of people have, because normally they only have 1 week where they have a bad week.
So there we are.
But even just like her first 2 challenges, she was like bottom of the pile, basically, for the first 2 as well.
Totally.
And then she didn't pull it out of the bag for the last one like Deborah did. She completely,
Anya's reaction was because they didn't send anyone home.
No.
This was the final. The rules of the game are somebody goes home. You have a bad week, you go home. You choose the wrong fabric, you go home.
Yeah. And even in the past, when we've not agreed with the judges, somebody's gone home every single time. It's one of the few competitions we watch on telly, and they're pretty consistent every time.
But you know what?
It's not Big Brother, for goodness sake.
Yeah, well, if you'd have sent Man Yi home, yes, I'd have been angry tonight, okay? But they're the rules. And you could have argued that, okay, that dress wasn't perhaps as good as it had been. I would have ultimately gone to bed accepting that. What I don't accept is, everyone's got to win. Everyone's got to go into the final. No, you've had 2 weeks. Brogan's had 2 weeks where she's been off her game.
She is an incredible sewer. Please note, she is very, very good. Yeah. I'm more frustrated with the judges than anything else here.
I think
but in the past, anytime she's outside of her comfort zone, she has really struggled. Really struggled. Whereas the likes of Annie, I haven't seen her struggle to that extent as much as Brogan. She's always her kimono this week was incredible. And like in the past, she's pulled these incredible things. She has made mistakes, but she's, in my opinion, much more competent, an incredible sewer by comparison, by a long mile.
She's very good at what she can do. But both last week and this week, that was outside of her. She couldn't stick a puff sleeve on it. She couldn't turn it into a gingham dress. And it showed she can't work outside her comfort zone.
This does happen in other programs. I don't know whether you've watched other programs where the TV program has gone against kind of trend and not sent someone home, or have sent 2 people home. Is it because of real serious, difficult to judge, do you think? Or is it for TV?
No. In this case, absolutely not.
That was not hard to judge this week. Yep. That was not hard to judge at all. Well, Brogan, and again, like we said, this isn't Brogan's fault. No. The judges should have sent her home. And Brogan's reaction when she was kept in, she thought she was going home. The fact that everyone looked at her and she looked just as shocked just goes to show that it's the TV company who have now turned Brogan into a villain, because there will be people out there who will be annoyed at her, and it's not her.
Absolutely. I do feel bad about that. Duty of care now, where people are saying horrible things, and it's not her fault, it's the production company that have put her in that position. If you go back to the judging, when they were talking about Brogan's make, actually Esme did say, didn't she, it's not really origami.
No. So and if that had been anybody else, they'd be gone. Anybody else in that competition, they'd be gone.
Her critique did seem a little light, didn't it, compared to others?
No, did you not notice? None of them mentioned, apart from a single sentence about the origami. I'm sick. I'm absolutely sick. I've lost all respect for them.
Well, and the fact that this has happened the week before the final, it makes it even more kind of. I'm not actually looking forward to it next week, because all I can think of is that the judges are not going to be fair. They weren't fair this week, and they're not going to be fair next week.
We must keep saying it. It may not seem fair to us. We can't say that they weren't fair, but from what we see, it comes across like it's not fair.
Based on their criteria for
based on everything they said throughout the show.
Indeed. Yeah. Okay. I think it's when they said no one's going, that was the bit where I was like, oh. And I think that cut me more, because you are expecting someone to go, and that hurt me more than anything else, because it's like, oh, you just feel it. Out of filter.
Yeah, I was like, oh, you've turned into one of them, have you?
You know what? If you want to do the thing, which they've done it in the Bake Off, they've done it on Strictly, they've done it on other programs. If you want to say, oh, no one's going home this week, that is fine, as long as you send 2 people home the next week or whatever. But don't do it the week before the final.
Yeah.
No. It's just
technically we're just going to
and stuff. There's physical injuries that impact, so therefore people are disappearing because of. So the numbers even out.
Yes, it's a bit like, I think I've seen that on a couple of RuPaul. Someone goes out for an injury in week 2, so actually there's a backup at some point when no one has to go home.
Yeah, exactly. But you don't have that. That's the first time with the sewing bee, and it's usually been really consistent and nice, and like it's been a comfort that it's actually one of the consistent. And it's like, it just reminds me of stupid shows that are like Big Brother and all that nonsense.
Stupid
like
shows that
popular vote and
are becoming overproduced.
I don't know, it's all theory, it's all opinion. Let's make that quite clear. If you're still watching and joining in, we're hypothesizing. We are doing exactly what they do on Match of the Day for an hour after every match, where they talk about the players.
When have you watched Match of the Day?
Do you even know what football is?
It's years of bringing up watching my brother and my dad watching it. They would critique every match afterwards. After Match of the Day finishes, my brother and my dad would critique for another hour. And I would all the time, I'd be kind of jealous, because I could never join in with that conversation. And I was jealous at the fact that they were able to talk so passionately. And my dad listened to my brother's opinion, my brother would listen to my dad's opinion, and they would agree to disagree and agree to part, but still be friends. And that is exactly...
Like us, Tonya.
And that is exactly
this season we've been agreeing an awful lot, Tim. What it is? We've been having too much coffee together.
and in this day and age, it's very difficult to give an opinion without suddenly being turned into a pariah. And I think people still respect that from us. They're listening to analysis. They can appreciate the analysis and either agree or disagree, which team Ting or team Tonya. But clearly we've got team together this time, haven't we?
Yeah. Well, we did have slight disagreement the mending. But what did you just
Team
Tonya this year.
Is that not some sort of ice skater or something? Is that something like that?
Yeah, we won't go into that.
It can't be it can't work.
Awning.
Right?
Awning? That sounds
like an awning.
Awning.
So
what I was going to say, did you all agree with the garment of the week? Please note, I thought the garment of the week was fabulous that they picked, but I would have picked Deborah's. I would have picked Deborah's.
I just wonder whether but then that's where I start to think, have they then weighted that down with the fact that she hadn't done too well?
When you look at Annie's and Deborah's, they were amazing.
Impeccably done. Incredible. I could never do that.
Also, not forget, we know it's filmed over 2 days. We are getting such an edited highlight. We didn't see any of Annie's boning. There was so much we didn't see out of some of those sewers and that folding and the way they edited it. You know, they edited it like Manny was folding her creases for the whole 5 hours, didn't they?
As we know, the judges actually spent a lot longer giving critique. So we may have missed all the useful, they could have said other things about Brogan's lack of whatever, and we just didn't hear it.
So there we are. Who would have thought we'd have Team Tong? Is that right?
Tonya.
It will be like deja vu again, watching the same 4 again. We would love to know your opinions. It will be an interesting, hot topic, please write away in the comments. You know what we always say. We love the program. Well, yeah.
Mostly.
But we understand the sewers are unbelievably brilliant to get to this place. Just what, as you write, just think that in mind. Maybe as we do, keep looking at the bigger picture, the producers, the show and everything. And as we say, we are still allowed to have an opinion and to break it down and to analyse it. It's what they do on all these programmes, isn't it? And in sport. When you love something so much, it's good to do that. It's been wonderful talking to you all about it. You've got to give me your winner now. Tonya, who do you want to win next week?
Annie or Deborah?
Okay. Ting, who do you want to win next week?
Well, it's going to be the same, I think, with a slight leaning towards Deborah.
Stuart, who do you want to win next week? Deborah, why can't you say one person, people?
Sorry.
I said leaning towards Deborah, but I wouldn't be upset if Annie won.
No, they're both really good.
It's what lots of people are saying, you just hit a nail on the head. They are exceptional. I wouldn't mind actually at all of who won it really, because
really
I want Deborah. I want Deborah. But that's because the journey I've gone on with her, seeing her develop, sitting out on the Riviera with her, and her incredible makes. It's been wonderful seeing Annie's journey too. How she's just over certainly the last 3 weeks gone boom. It's been a wonderful episode.
I feel bad now ranting. Please note it is about the judging and the production and everything else. It's not at the sewers. I'm frustrated with their treatment of the sewers.
Let's make it quite clear. Anya's just watched it, literally half an hour.
Sorry, I just finished watching it before the recording. I've had a very busy.
You're feeling like me and T felt.
We watched it live Wednesday night, so we calmed down slightly. Anya's come full force.
This is what they were like when they watched it. Stuart rang Ting to be like, oh my God.
So 10 o'clock I got a phone call.
My fuse wire, my patience is massively long. It's meters long. Very rare do I lose my temper and turn into the Hulk.
I was going to say, I've also we had a 24-hour conference the day before and I was up for a large chunk of that. And so I'm running on sleep and lack of sleep and a lot of caffeine. So I'm clearly all G'd up, but still annoyed.
I think the comments will be chalk and cheese. Some people will say, I loved it. Any 4 of those could have gone through to the final. And some might be, the criteria is wrong.
Some people might be right, like me and Tonya.
Yeah, to be fair, the 4 people that are going in, like we said, are all incredible sewers. So I think it is anybody's game.
As you rightly said, it comes down to a program, a format, and you have judges to make those decisions. That's why you have a judge.
Or not.
No, they didn't make a decision, did they?
No, they were just there for decoration this week, it seems. So
we will see. Oh, talking about the competition as well, I'm going to bend the rules, you two. Patrick and Esme, they've changed the rules of the show. Well, all the production crew have changed the rules of the show. So I'm changing the rules of our competition. Anyone who put the 3 sewers down, doesn't matter which order, you're going to go into the final. So basically, everyone's in the draw.
Everyone's in. That's how the new rules around
here. Next week, we'll do it live as we record, and you'll see a little thing on the screen going round, and we'll have one winner to win that lovely bolt of fabric, which hasn't moved since we last recorded. Thanks, everyone. It's been a long show. I hope you can understand where we're coming from in our debate. Enjoy the lively debate in the comments. See you next week for the final of Series 8 of the Great British Sewing Bee, everyone. See you later. Bye.
Bye.